tournaments at least, and as you go forward?
Yeah, I think it's trying to have a little bit of amnesia and forget about what happened 6 weeks ago. And then just trying to find the motivation to go back out there and work as hard as I've been working. I worked incredibly hard on my game from October last year all the way up until April this year, and it was nice to sort of see the fruits of my labor come to fruition and have everything happen. But at the same time, you have to enjoy that. You have to enjoy what you've just accomplished, and I certainly, I feel like I'm still doing that, and I will continue to do that. But at some point, you have to realize that there's a little bit more golf left to play this season. Here, Portrush, Ryder Cup. So those are obviously the three big things, that I'm sort of looking at for the end, for the rest of the year. But I think weeks like Quail Hollow or weeks like even last week, it makes it easier to reset in some way, to be like, okay, I sort of need to get my stuff together here and get back to the process and sort of what I'd been doing for that 7 months, from October last year until April this year.
Stay back left to regain motivation.
I didn't know. I mean, look, you dream about the final putt going in at the Masters, but you don't think about what comes next. So, I think I've always been a player that struggles to play after a big event. After I win whatever tournament, I always struggle to show up with motivation the next week, because you've just accomplished something and you want to enjoy it, and you want to sort of relish the fact that you've achieved a goal. And I think chasing a certain goal for the better part of a decade and a half, I think I'm allowed a little bit of time to relax a little bit, but we're here at Oakmont, and I certainly can't relax this week.
Far right to Kira.
What is it?
I think it's probably a combination of both, or everything. I didn't like that reputation because I felt like I was better than that reputation. So that's ego-driven in some way. But I allude to this all the time. Like, I missed the cut at the U.S. Open in 2016, 2017, and 2018. And here in 16, Erin Hills in 17, which is what it is, and then 2018 at Shinnecock, I felt Shinnecock was a really hard one because I love that golf course, and to perform the way I did there, like, it really, like, it hurt me. So I made a decision to be like, okay, I want to, and then I would go back, I'd play Hartford the next week, and I'd feel really comfortable on a PGA Tour setup. And then I think it was that week where it clicked. It's like, why am I so comfortable here in Hartford, but last week I had no clue what to do? So that's when, I made the decision at that back end of 2018 into 2019. I want to try to build my game around the toughest tests that we have in the game. And then, as you've seen since 2019, 6 top 10s in a row with this tournament, obviously finished second the last 2 years in a row. And I've definitely become a much more competent US Open player, and I'm way more comfortable on those firm, fast setups like you saw at Pinehurst last year and LACC the year before that. So I honestly, the US Open probably went from my least favorite major to almost my favorite because of what it asks of you, and I love that challenge.
Standing.
The week since that.
Yeah, there's definitely been a little bit of rain since that Monday. Last Monday felt impossible. I birdied the last 2 holes for 81. So like it felt pretty good. Didn't feel like I played that bad. So it's much more benign right now than it was that much. I mean, they had the pins in dicey locations, and greens were running at 15 and a half, and you know it was nearly impossible. But yeah, this morning it felt, you know, it was a little softer. You know, the pins aren't going to be on 3 or 4% slopes all the time, so you know, if you put it in the fairway, it's certainly playable. But then you just have to think about leaving your ball below the hole, and you know, trying to, you know, make as many pars as you can, and you know, you get yourself in the way of a few birdies. That's a bonus.
A few more on the left, Bob.